All right, I'm Steve Papageorge with House of Attention, and with me is Nina Vithlani of Sectorlight, and you're out of Dubai, if I understand correctly. And Nina, tell me a little bit about you and Sectorlight and what you do and what Sectorlight does.
Yeah, so I have lived in the region for the last over 20 years now. So it's been, it's home to me, originally from the UK. And Sectorlight, we are a branding and creative agency. We connect people with places and spaces. So essentially what we do is work with developers and brands to define what a place stands for and translate that narrative into a story and then translate that across every touch point within the experience.
Can you give me an example of something you might have done recently that sticks out to you?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about it a bit later on as one of our sort of proud projects, so we can jump into that. So we recently launched the Four Seasons Saadiyat private residences. So they're a standalone set of residences. There's no hotel. It was the last plot on the Saadiyat beach. Saadiyat Island is, a very natural and historical island in Abu Dhabi. And the project was basically all around the symphony of nature. So our vision was basically to have an orchestra performing on the beach, on the white sandy beach at Saadiyat. And we produced a piece of music, and the campaign and the entire launch was centered around that symphony of nature. So yeah, it's a very interesting project, and then that translated across every touch point. So that's essentially what we do.
Tell me about a physical space or an experience that you've attended that completely inspired you, blew your mind, raised the bar, something that you wish you did, maybe.
Yeah, well, I'd like to talk about a project that we actually worked on ourselves. Here in Saudi. I mean, there's a few that I can think of, but the first one would be Bujairi Terrace. So Bujairi Terrace is one of Diriyah's first project launches back in December 2022. And it's based on a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's called At-Turaif. And the site is basically the birthplace of Saudi. So there's a lot of history, a lot of culture. And we were involved in launching Bujairi Terrace, which is the F&B destination within the project. And so I think, it's a very proud moment, and working on that project, working on sort of the brand and the strategy and the positioning and all of the launch, and then actually going there and dining at one of those wonderful destinations and seeing that beautiful view and feeling, the heritage and the culture rooted from, the center place of Saudi, that was a very, very proud moment. So yeah. That's probably one of the most proud moments in Saudi. And then I would say another one that I feel incredibly drawn towards is Saadiyat Island in Abu Dhabi. So Saadiyat is kind of positioned as the cultural district. So there's a lot of culture and heritage, but it's also the new branded residences destination within Abu Dhabi. And it's personally one of my favorites. And I feel so lucky to be living so close to such a beautiful destination. I mean, I haven't seen beaches like this anywhere in the region. And it's literally 45 minutes away for me. Beautiful white sandy beach. That beautiful architecture with all the museums. We've got the Louvre, the Guggenheim opening, the Natural History Museum, the Light and Sound Museum. So you've got all of that. Then you've got nature. So you've got, the entire sort of the endangered species of sea turtles and the corals and all that. And then you've got a fantastic investment opportunity as well.
Coincidentally, last night we went to the UNESCO site that you mentioned and had dinner there. And it is stunning.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? It's beautiful. Yeah, breathtaking.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So anyway, I want to geek out with you separately about that. All right, let's talk about industry trends for a minute. There's a lot going on in the industry. You've got AI, you've got technology integrating into every single place possible. But where do you think that industry trends are getting it right now? And then I'm going to ask you where you think it's going astray, or where maybe industry trends are going in a weird direction that you may not love.
Yeah. So I think industry trends that are getting it right are placemaking. So I think it's no longer about the developer, it's about the place and defining the purpose and the vision of that place and translating that into a story. And again, you know, coming back to all of the touch points of that experience. So I think the developers and the places that are getting it particularly right are doing the placemaking really, really well and telling that story.
Do you have a good example?
I mean, I hate to keep talking about it, but I think, you know,
fair.
Abu Dhabi have done a fantastic job when it comes to Saadiyat, Yas. You know, Yas is another really great example where they've positioned Yas Island as an entertainment destination. You've got like Disney and, you know, all of these amazing, you know, projects coming up over there, and it's also a great investment opportunity. So you can live there. They've got, you know, the retail, they've got the entertainment, pools, the entire infrastructure, and I think that's where they've really kind of got the place vision right, and then that translates across all the projects within it.
Yes, I will say this is my first time in Saudi, and the spectacles. It's like architecture, placemaking. Like this place has some of the most incredible things I've ever laid eyes on.
Yeah.
And so anyway, this is about you. Oh, this is always my favorite question. What's the dream project right now? And I'm going to challenge you, if money were not an object and clients were not an object, that you could just pick the next thing you get to work on, what is that?
So for us, the dream project is always one where we get involved early. So, and we are actually working on a couple of these projects at the moment, so we're very fortunate. So often with these projects, what happens is the branding and the creative part comes right at the end. So it's like, okay, we've created this wonderful product. Now let's figure out how we brand and market it. So where we actually get involved early in the master planning, in creating the destination, in the placemaking, those projects are super successful because we can help to shape those stories right from the very beginning. So, you know, that's probably like that's one of our dream projects. And obviously, I think every agency wants to work on out of the ordinary projects, right? So again, can't talk about it, but there is a project that we're working on at the moment that is very, very unique in terms of its master plan and how it's, you know, what it stands for, who it's targeting. It's targeted at, you know, the youngest generation, the future generation, you know, Gen Z rather than, or Gen Alpha rather than, you know, the existing kind of everyone else is talking the same language. So I think that, you know, anything unconventional is what any creative agency would dream to work on and be a part of.
Nina, can you give me an example of where you think the industry might be going in a very strange direction or something you're not really on board with? Where's the industry getting it wrong?
Yeah, so I think the industry is getting it wrong with the amenity arms race. So nowadays we hear about more wellness amenities, you know, more brands, more this, more that. And it's all about it's amenities. That's what everyone is kind of promoting and selling. And they're trying to create a point of difference through the amenities that they offer. But what they're not getting right is actually just telling the story and taking a step back and defining what the purpose is and speaking to the audience, you know, with that rationale that this is what will actually, these amenities are there, they're kind of a tick in the box, but actually telling the story and communicating why the place exists and why someone would want to live, work and play in that space.
So when you look at Egypt as a hospitality destination, what do you think the market needs to communicate to capture the attention of the international investors?
So I had the privilege of attending the FHS Egypt, the opening reception a couple of weeks ago. So actually spent quite a lot of time there speaking to various developers and understanding the landscape a little bit more. Obviously, we've been in and out of Egypt. We've been working on projects over there. So a few of the challenges that Egypt faces at the moment are, first of all, it's still relatively new to branded residences. So there's definitely a lot of education that needs to happen, right from the sales teams to, you know, the buyers understanding the premium of branded residences. I mean, premium can be 20 to 40% in some places. So I think the sales approach needs to be adapted accordingly. And at the moment, we're not quite seeing that. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there for training and, you know, development on the sales process side. And then I think, you know, the other challenge that we have is obviously the currency, the fluctuation of the Egyptian pound and the volatility that that can create. Regulations, you know, there's no escrow account structure in place that exists in more established markets. So for an investor, I think they would need to see a lot more structure and understanding of the product and the sales process to want to invest.
And from a brand and positioning standpoint, where do you see Egypt's under-leveraged hospitality opportunity today?
So I think Egypt are under-leveraging opportunities when it comes to brand Egypt. So I think historically, Egypt have done a wonderful job at promoting themselves as a historical destination, pyramids, the River Nile cruises, and still a lot of the communication that we see around brand Egypt is the historical side and less about the future, the contemporary development that's coming up. And I think there's a massive opportunity with the North Coast development. So we're currently working on a couple of projects up in Ras El Hekma, which is the North Mediterranean coast of Egypt. And that, I think that is really an untapped opportunity because the climate, it's that Mediterranean climate. So it could be an all year round destination. Currently, it's seen as more of a seasonal destination, which is a second home for Egyptians, where they would travel when the weather's wonderful and spend, you know, weekends up there. So everyone has a second home up there. Now, to appeal to the international audience, international investors, I think there needs to be more investment in the infrastructure. So, you know, how do people get up there when you're comparing themselves to North Africa or, you know, the Mediterranean, the European side? The infrastructure is a lot more developed. So I think, I mean, it will happen for sure. It will happen in time. We've seen it with New Cairo. I mean, New Cairo was nothing, and now it's, you know, I stayed there a couple of weeks ago, and it's really the happening place, and it's very young and very vibrant and very contemporary. So it's definitely coming through. But I think that North Coast, there's a lot of potential there if it can, you know, if it can be positioned as that all year round destination, which I know that the brands and the developers are working on at the moment.
So Nina, last question. What's the future of hospitality to you in one sentence?
So the future of hospitality to me is that seamless blend of the vision of a place, the experience and the purpose. So when all of those come together, that is what the future holds. Those are the projects that are going to differentiate and stand out.
Nina, thank you so much for your time with us.
My pleasure.
Nina Vithlani,
Thank you.
Sectorlight.